Hello and happy World Book Day. My name's Joy Pitt and I'm a professional storyteller in the oral tradition. And to me, writing children's books is a natural progression for that. My first book was published in 2019 and it's called The Company of the Silver Hare. And this book that I'm going to read for you today is the second book in the trilogy and it's called Hare Under Moon Hill. And it's published by Hawkwood Books and it can be pre-ordered. It's coming out in April. It can be pre-ordered from any bookshop. So Waterstones or whatever your preference is. And here we go. Lily conjured her butterfly lights and they gazed around fearfully. They were in a small and filthy stone chamber, bitterly cold and damp, with mouldy straw on the floor and rings with chains attached to the walls. At least they haven't chained us up, said Emmet bitterly. There were two small flashes of light and Jimmy and Henny Penny stood before them in their own forms. Oh, Jimmy! Lily rushed to hug him. You were so clever. How did you change so fast? They never had a chance to notice you before you were gone. Jimmy shrugged modestly. My Jimmy saw goblins stepping out. Guessed something bad might happen. Henny Penny clucked comfortably. Jimmy is such a good shapeshifter. Ivan is safe in Ursula's ear, so don't worry about him. If the goblins don't know we exist, we can forage about in our flea form and try to find a way to rescue you all. The rustling sounded again in the corner, accompanied by a hoarse cough. Lily conjured more butterflies, and in the flickering, fluttering light, they could see a small creature huddled miserably in the fragments of a large eggshell about the size of a goose's egg. It coughed again, and the smell of damp soot grew stronger. Lily made her way cautiously towards it. Be careful, Lily, warned Jenna anxiously. What is it? Plump Lily knelt down beside the thing in the eggshell. It flapped small leathern wings feebly and gazed at her fearfully from bloodshot orange eyes. Slowly Lily stretched out her hand and the little creature sniffed at her fingers suspiciously. She stroked its dirty head gently and to her surprise it suddenly hopped onto her lap and nuzzled at her. I know what it is, Letty said suddenly. It's a baby dragon. Me and Hetty went to see some newly hatched ones in the caves with Savine and Speedwell. Poor little thing, it doesn't look very well. I think it's hungry, Lily said. For some reason, those goblins must have put the egg down here and it hatched. Perhaps they forgot about it. It hasn't got any food. Janet swung her rucksack from her back and opened it, pulling out cheese, oaten cakes and dried fruit. She crumbled some of the oat cakes in a beaker and added some water and liquid life force. Lily stretched out her hand for the beaker and held it under the little creature's nose. The effect was electrifying. Its whole head disappeared into the cup, and there was a loud and happy sound of gobbling and an unmistakable belch. After a while, the little head popped out again, and the orange eyes gazed at Lily beseechingly. 3 times the beaker was filled, and thrice did the baby dragon demolish the contents. When it was replete, it curled up happily on Lily's lap and put its head under its leathern wing. A gentle snore turned into a damp cough, and it sat up and looked miserable again. What it needs, said Henny Penny, is fire. A mother dragon always feeds her babies fire, almost from the moment that they are hatched. Fire is the lifeblood of dragons. If this little one doesn't get some soon, it won't survive. Lily conjured some fire on the tip of her finger and held it out to the baby dragon. The orange eyes widened in delight and it devoured the fire in much the same way as it had the oatcakes. Lily kept it coming until it turned its head away. The change in the little dragon was remarkable. It seemed to grow visibly larger, its stomach became rounded, and its skin, which had before had appeared a muddy grey, now glowed a healthy green with an orange glow to its belly. It rubbed its head affectionately against Lily's shoulder. There, baby. Lily stroked it gently. Now you feel better, don't you? The little dragon opened its mouth and a small puff of smoke floated out of it. Mamma, it suddenly said hopefully. Lily looked flabbergasted, and Susanna and the twins burst into hysterical giggles. Even Emmet forgot their perils for a moment and grinned broadly. No, little one, said Lily hastily. I'm not your mamma, but I will look after you until we find her. The baby dragon appeared to accept this and settled down on her lap, beginning to purr loudly, little puffs of smoke expelled from its nostrils with each exhalation. You need a name. Lily was thoughtful. You sound just like a cat. I'm going to call you Tiddles. This caused more laughter. Tiddles? Janet wiped tears of mirth from her eyes. You can't call a dragon Tiddles. I can if I want to, said Lily obstinately, and stuck out her lower lip, a look that Emmett knew only too well. It's a good name and it suits him. If he thinks I'm his mother, I get to name him, so there. Jimmy tactfully changed the subject. My Jimmy is hungry too. Should we have something to eat? Jenna unpacked the rucksack and set out the food on a linen napkin, keeping a little of everything back so that she could regenerate it with magic. Everyone suddenly realised how hungry they were and set to with a will. What a good thing you packed the rucksack, said Lily gratefully. I don't think those goblins are going to feed us. When they had eaten and drunk their fill, the children felt much better. Tiddles had some more too, followed by another dose of fire. He was definitely growing larger. And the fire made him quite hot to the touch. They all stroked him to warm their cold hands, and the baby dragon purred harder with delight, rolling over so that they could tickle his belly. He's very friendly and loving, Susanna marvelled. I thought that dragons were fierce and dangerous. Oh, believe me, they are. Hennypenny spoke in tones of authority. You won't be able to do that to him in a month or two. You know a lot about dragons, said Pan in his chattery voice. Savine gave the children a whole lesson about them, but Hennypenny looked at them rather severely. I think I was the only one paying attention. What else do you know about them? Asked Janet, hastily changing the subject. Well, Hennypenny spoke thoughtfully. There are several different kinds, but the fiercest and wildest are the dragons of doom, characterised by their orange eyes and green skin. Under the skin is an orange glow, created by the fire in their bellies. They are born without scales, but these begin to form soon afterwards and have a red tinge to them. The females are fiercer than the males and lay only one egg at a time, to which they are firmly attached. Woe betide anyone that steals an egg or harms their child. Their worst enemies are the dark goblins, against whom they wage war of the bitterest kind. The dark goblins will steal their eggs for use in spells, and their young can be trained if caught early enough and sold to the race of giants that dwell in the wastelands beyond the mountains of dread. This is why the dragons of doom hate the dark goblins so much. Hennypenny, said Lily in a small voice, look. They all looked to where she was pointing. Tiddles, lying on his back with his neck stretched out, purred happily in his sleep. In the orange glow which suffused his green belly, red-tinged scales were beginning to form. The little company looked at each other in growing horror. Oh, Lily, said Hennypenny at last, your Tiddles is a dragon of doom. These must be the dark goblins that are holding us prisoner. Emmett was aghast. They are very different to any that we have known in the kingdom of the elves. They're so much taller, and they're all very dark of hair and eyes. If the dragons of doom discover that they are holding one of their babies, we have to escape. Janet was ashen with fear. We could find ourselves in the middle of a terrible battle. They huddled around the slumbering Tiddles as though he had been a stove and racked their brains.